You've probably said it 100 times before. You're beautiful. It feels like the natural thing to say, right? Polite, encouraging, appreciative. But here's the honest truth, it's also empty. Not because beauty doesn't matter, but because those three words have lost their power. They've become white noise in a woman's daily life. Compliments like that are safe, predictable, and most importantly, they don't stir her. What you need to understand is that desire doesn't ignite in the obvious. It sparks in the unspoken, the unexpected, in the psychologically charged spaces between words, the ones that touch her in a way she doesn't even fully understand. When a man says, "You're beautiful," what he's often doing without realizing it is putting her on a pedestal, expecting reward for noticing something every other man has already seen. She knows she's beautiful. She's heard it since she was 12. She doesn't need another reminder. What she needs is a man who notices what others don't. Desire begins when a woman senses that you are present enough to witness something real in her. Not her looks, but her essence, her contradictions, her unpredictability, her energy. That is where arousal truly lives for women. Not in the praise she receives, but in the depth with which she feels seen. So, what should you say instead? Speak to the part of her that isn't on display, the part she doesn't broadcast. Talk like you do about things you love. It makes everything else fade for a moment. Or you might say, "I notice the way you pause before you laugh, like you're always holding something back." It's hypnotic. Now, you're not talking to her face, her makeup, or her body. You're speaking to her soul. Most men don't even know how to look there, let alone speak to it. The effect is powerful. It unsettles her, not manipulatively, but in a way that breaks the routine she's used to. You've moved out of the category of men who just want her and entered the rare space of the man who actually sees her. At that moment, she isn't just flattered, she's drawn in, because the part of her that wants to be discovered, to be truly known, has been awakened. Let's go deeper. Complimenting a woman's beauty assumes your value comes from recognizing hers, that you're trying to earn something, approval, attraction, sex, by offering attention. True masculine presence doesn't work that way. It doesn't ask permission. It penetrates reality. It speaks not to impress, but to reveal, to reflect something back to her she didn't even realize herself. This is what Esther Perel often explains when she talks about erotic intelligence, the idea that desire isn't about what's visible. It's about what's imagined, about the psychological space that opens between two people. When curiosity replaces certainty, when observation replaces praise, when presence replaces performance. Next time you're with a woman, resist the urge to fill silence with empty compliments. Let her speak, observe. Listen not just to the words, but to how she speaks them, the rhythm, the tone, the subtle shift in her eyes, and respond from that place, saying, "There's something about the way you hesitate before answering. It shows you think deeper than you let on." Can do far more for her attraction than 1,000, "You're gorgeous" comments ever could. Why? Because it demands presence. Real, grounded attention is something most men can't offer. They're distracted, performative, or insecure. It's not that saying, "You're beautiful," is wrong. It's just not enough. It's superficial, lazy, and deep down women know it. What she wants is to be felt, not merely seen. To be engaged like a mystery, not displayed like a trophy. To be a force, not a feature. Change your approach. Step out of autopilot. Speak to her in a way that touches what's hidden. Let her feel that you're tuning into something subtle, sacred, not just scanning for the obvious. That's when desire begins. That's when she leans in. That's when she starts imagining what it would be like to be fully open to a man who truly understands the language of her inner world. Because in the end, it's not your words that affect her. It's the sharp, specific, fearless attention behind them. Desire is often thought of as physical, a spark, a glance, a touch. That may be true for some men, but for most women, desire is far more layered. Emotional, psychological, even existential. It's not about how you look or what you say on the surface. It's about how you make her feel about herself in your presence. That emotional intensity, that deep intimacy, is what leads to physical longing. If your goal in conversation is just to be charming, impressive, or seductive, you're missing the point. Women don't want charm, they want connection. What excites them isn't the words themselves, but the emotion behind them, the attention, the curiosity, the courage to be real. Most men misunderstand sexuality. They think it's about performance, being bold, being alpha. But real arousal comes from emotional depth. The energy that says, "I am here, I am grounded, I am unafraid of who you are underneath the surface. That is masculine presence. It draws her in, unlike the man who rushes to prove his worth. It starts with language. Are your words grounded in observation and presence, or are they shallow compliments? Consider the difference between, "You look amazing in that dress," and "There's something about the way you carry yourself when you're comfortable. Your energy fills the room without trying." One is surface approval. The other is emotional precision. Precision is seductive because women aren't seeking validation. They want relevance. They want to feel important to you, not just as a body, but as a force. That means engaging with the parts of her rarely touched, her ideas, her stories, her silences. When your words show you've been listening, you unlock a part of her most men never reach. You activate her emotional imagination. And that's where desire starts. I'm not suggesting you turn every interaction into a therapy session. This isn't about being heavy or intense for the sake of it. It's about being present, about speaking from your attention, not your agenda, about noticing the subtle, unseen, and meaningful aspects of her. That is what turns ordinary connection into true attraction, what turns surface level interaction into magnetic, lasting desire. For instance, if she's sharing a memory from her childhood, don't just nod and smile. Try saying something like, "It seems like that moment shaped more than just your character, maybe even how you protect yourself today." That's emotional depth. That's insight. And insight naturally builds closeness. But let's be clear, this isn't a formula. You can't fake this. You can't just learn a few psychological tips and expect women to melt. This only works when you've done the inner work yourself. When you're grounded in your own body, aware of your emotions, and unafraid to be fully seen. Because the more emotionally available you are, the safer she feels opening up. And the more she opens, the more she wants to be near you, mentally, emotionally, and physically. Desire flows in the space where emotions exist. Emotional resonance meets masculine steadiness. She wants to feel that you truly feel her, not because you're trying to seduce her, but because you're alive enough to notice what others often miss. You reflect her humanity, and by doing that, you become attractive, not just physically, but as an experience. You become unforgettable. This is what Esther Perel means when she talks about eroticism thriving where curiosity and exploration exist. Most men destroy curiosity by turning interactions into goal-oriented steps. But a woman doesn't want to be solved. She wants to be discovered gradually, moment by moment. That's what excites her, not being captured, but being pleasantly surprised by a man who sees what's behind her eyes before he even reaches for her physically. And if you're thinking this sounds like work, it is. But it's the kind of work that separates the men she forgets from the man she'll never stop thinking about. The one who made her feel what no one else could. So, here's the key to remember. If you want to spark desire, speak to what's beneath the surface. Not the beauty she shows, but the emotions she hides. The thoughts she isn't sure are safe to share. When you reach that place with your words, your gaze, and your presence, you become more than attractive. You become genuinely desired. And in that space, everything changes. One of the most misunderstood ideas about male-female dynamics is the belief that women primarily want praise. That if you say enough flattering things, she'll be drawn to you. Here's the harsh truth: compliments without presence are just noise. She doesn't need more admiration. She needs to feel your energy, your stability, your depth, and that doesn't come from telling her she's pretty. It comes from showing up with a calm, grounded power that very few men truly embody. When you say, "You're beautiful," what are you really doing? Usually, you're seeking approval, hoping that by offering her a compliment, she'll reward you with attention or validation. That puts you in the role of the giver and her in the role of the judge. You're offering something and waiting for her response. That's not desire. That's negotiation. Masculine presence isn't about giving. It's about being. It's about standing firmly in who you are, with nothing to prove and nothing to chase. A woman doesn't fall for a man because he flatters her. She falls because she feels something when she's with him. She feels herself relax, her guard lower, her mind open. She feels safe, not because he said she's special, but because his energy pulls her into the present moment. True presence is far more powerful than praise. When you're present, you're not performing. You're not trying to impress, be clever, or seductive. You're simply there, alert, receptive, grounded. You're not preoccupied with her reactions. You're not trying to read her mind or control her impression. You're simply witnessing her fully, with no agenda. And paradoxically, that makes you magnetic. When you stop praising and start observing, you change the dynamic. Instead of focusing on her looks, you focus on her essence. You might notice the quiet intensity in the way she studies people when she's really listening. That's not praise, that's perception. And perception, when accurate and authentic, is intoxicating. She doesn't just feel seen, she feels understood. And in that moment, attraction isn't about your looks or words, it's about the experience of being with you. This kind of presence can't be faked. It's not a trick. It comes from doing your own internal work. Being aware of your emotions without letting them control you. Knowing your own value so deeply that you don't need to announce it. And when you show up like that, calm, clear, anchored, she feels it physically. She relaxes, she trusts, her imagination opens. Many men don't realize that women are always scanning for emotional safety. Not just surface level safety, but deep safety. Can she express herself freely without judgment? Can she be silly raw or intense without fear? Can she surrender to desire without feeling used? Your energy answers these questions long before you speak. Words alone are never enough. You can say all the right things, but if your energy says, I need something from you, she'll feel it and withdraw. But if your presence says, I'm here, I don't need anything, I just want to witness what's real, she will be drawn to you irresistibly. This is masculine containment, the ability to hold space without controlling it. You don't rush the silence. You don't try to direct the moment. You allow things to unfold naturally. That patience and stillness let her feel safe enough to come toward you, not because you pushed, but because you pulled her in with your essence, not your effort. Stop relying on praise. Stop defaulting to compliments. Let your words come from observation, not performance. Let your presence do the heavy work. When a woman feels your grounded energy, when she senses your depth, when she experiences your full presence, everything shifts. She's drawn to you naturally, without needing words to convince her.